Hey guys, Greg here.
Hey, Tony here, and we just wanted to record this video because we realized that you've probably seen a fair bit of Greg in different ads and videos and on YouTube and TikTok, wherever. You've seen a little bit of me, but we thought it'd be worth getting a little more personal. Just introduce ourselves as your coaches throughout Age 40 and these other sprints that we're doing. And so I want to start, Greg, just by asking you the question, if you had to give, if you had to give a brief summary of the last 20 years of your life. So starting in your 20s, who were you then and how did you get to where you are now?
So great question. So I'm a husband, right, to Kelly, a father of 3 boys. And I think for me, I used to have this hierarchy of needs that I would teach on and I'd talk about at our events. I've been teaching the science of financial freedom for the last 20 years. And I called it the 5 F's, and it was faith, family, friends, fun, finances. It was like this pyramid.
It's a good framework.
And yeah, absolutely. It's helped a lot of people sort of put a value on what's important. So after I graduated college, I got a job as a financial planner. And I did that so essentially till I was almost 30 years old. And it was cool because I got to see behind the curtains of what made people financially successful, like what habits, what rhythms. Yeah. Then I jumped into real estate investing. And we started buying houses, fixing them up, and reselling them. And you know, we'd hold some property, but in Northeast Ohio, we were doing a lot of deals.
You did well,
system.
Right?
We did really well. Yeah, we were doing 100 deals a year. And to do that, we had to sort of invent a software. We worked with a local programming company to develop some technology to run our business. And then as I started to go around the country and speak about the success that we're having, everyone was like, okay, the information is great, but we want the technology.
Give us the tool.
We want the software. We want the tools, right? So we started RealFlow, a company in 2006, and that company grew significantly. We've got over 100,000 users of that platform right now, Inc. 500 company. And that I think has allowed me to achieve financial freedom. There was this point in my late 30s, early 40s where I was financially independent. I was financially free. I could have retired.
You made it.
Yeah. And a lot of my friends in high school and college were still working.
Yeah.
And I realized, you know what, that goal I had in my 20s to retire in my 40s, that wasn't the destination I was after. Like when you have money, when you don't have enough of it, when you're not financially free, we tend to link happiness to financial freedom.
Absolutely.
And I'm telling you right now, that connection is not real. It's not valid. Happiness happens is a byproduct of us doing what we were like born to do on this.
Dude, that's so important.
And for me, it was to create things. It was to create things that help people get better. And it wasn't just financially. And this is where Freedomology started to sort of grow in my mind. This idea that, man, it's great to teach financial freedom and to help people build a business and right, become, have high incomes and more independence. But it is so much better if you actually teach them, help them live an incredible life. And that's why it's not just the financial side of things. It is health. And it's looking at health completely differently than what mainstream media in the world will tell us what health is. Like mental health is the foundation. It's the core. And then when we look at relationships, the key to happiness is great relationships. And again, it's not just my relationship with you or my wife or my kids. It's my relationship with myself, my relationship with my creator. So what's been cool the past 10 years specifically is to see Freedomology, this idea, come to life. And really what I thought was a collection of ideas has now grown into a community of people. Even though we're small right now, we're going to continue to grow. And I really feel like it's a movement, man. So enough about me, Tony. I think what people want to know too is who Tony Allen is, right? You've got
that's what everyone wants to know.
Accent. You're from Australia. You were a pastor at my church. I mean, I sort of witnessed you from afar for a decade, right?
Yeah.
So in many ways, I knew you before you knew me.
That's true.
So who are you? What are you?
Sure. Well, I'll give the short version because it can be a long story. But so originally from Australia, and when I was 18, I felt I was working at a radio station doing audio engineering there, and I felt what I can only describe as a kind of a restlessness. I felt it a handful of times in my life where I strongly believed that God was nudging me to make a move, do something, step out. And it wasn't totally clear what that was at the time, but through praying with some people and listening to some really important voices in my life, I was introduced to this concept of a discipleship training school through YWAM. It's a global missionary organization called Youth with a Mission. They're all over the world in literally every country. And you can go and do, essentially, it's kind of like missionary boot camp for 6 months. They tell you when to go to bed, when to read your Bible, when to get up. And you spend several months immersed in some other culture overseas doing mission work. And so that's what I did. I was 18. I saved up a bunch of money and headed out to some place, Ohio, Dayton, Ohio, that I'd never heard of, some dinky little town. No, I had never heard of Ohio, but there was a base there that just kind of called out to me as the one to go to, because like I said, there's bases in Hawaii and there's like snowboarding themed DTSs or surfing themed DTSs. And I really wasn't looking for a vacation. I wanted to get dirty. I wanted to get in the dirt and do real work with real suffering people. And so I went to this, sorry, that makes it sound like people were suffering in Ohio, but I went to Ohio to study, and then we went to India, and that's where I did my outreach portion. And I'll tell you, man, that just gives you a perspective on life and wealth and what actual poverty looks like. I've never had my heart broken maybe quite as much as I did during my time in India, but it was also really valuable for me. I spent several months there working in some orphanages, some preschools, some drug rehab centers, that kind of thing. Came back a pretty changed person. I had to finish up my program in the United States, and by that stage I'd met a girl and wanted to stick around. So tried to find a way to do that legally. I was not about to break any laws, but decided I would go to college. And when thinking about what to study, I thought finance makes sense because I'm a poor immigrant and I'd like to know how to turn some money into more money. That seems important. I should study finance. I'm also really just interested in the psychology of markets.
It's funny, at church, you never talked about money, essentially. Church doesn't do a good job of talking
I don't think so.
Money and as a resource.
Yep.
and is something that can make a big impact.
Yeah, we maybe talk about giving,
Right.
but in terms of like generating wealth, it's almost kind of frowned upon in the church, frankly. Like some people just kind of have this feeling if someone has a lot of money, they probably did something sleazy to get it, or that to be like Jesus is to be poor.
Negative money thought, for sure.
I disagree with that for sure these days. So yeah, so I was very interested in finance, and that's what my undergrad was in. But I'd also grown up in the church, and music is a big part of my life as well. I had been playing music, singing in the church since I was like 12. And as I was about to finish my program at Kent State in finance, I was introduced to a job opportunity at a church in Medina as a worship pastor. So heading up all of their creative arts, worship, and that kind of thing. And I had never even considered that. I didn't know if I could support a family doing that. I'd never thought about being on staff at a church before. I was going to go into finance, and that was a real fork in the road for me. Like, okay, do I pursue this finance thing?
22-ish?
Yeah, I was like 22.
Okay.
Yep. So do I pursue the finance thing? I think I could make a lot of money doing that. Or do I go and do this music worship thing? And it's a bit of an unknown whether I'll be able to provide. But that's the route I went. Met this church, fell in love with it. The people there, fantastic. And so at age 22, I came on as their worship pastor, and I was there for 11 years. That's what I've been doing for the last decade. And that's that decade you mentioned where you've been attending the church, seeing me grow from 22 to 33 or whatever I am now. And over that time, I think, you and I got to know each other.
Yeah, a few years ago, so I took you to lunch.
Yeah.
And again, I just felt like compelled to connect with you, and I had no idea about the finance interest.
Yeah,
right?
Isn't that funny?
And it was me reaching out, essentially, like, how could I help impact the church a little bit more?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what could I do? And we've done some cool things since then. But I think that lunch then sort of opened you up to sort of maybe a new world or new mission. I guess,
well, I got to see, that's the first time I was introduced to Freedomology. I remember you drew it on a napkin for me about these three pillars. There's health, there's finances, and there's relationships. You need all three in balance. And I remember just even as you drew it out like that, I'd never seen it laid out that explicitly, but I resonated with it strongly of like, okay, yeah, finance has been really important to me. I went and studied it. I'm very interested in it. Health has been important to me. I've been in the gym for 10 years trying to be healthy. I certainly have more to learn there. And then the relationships piece, that is church, man. Church is people. And I've been swimming in that sea for the last decade. And so as you laid that out, I thought, man, I think Greg and I are kind of on the same wavelength about a lot of this stuff. We should explore this further. And so throughout that year, we got to know each other more. I got to kind of hear a bit of vision about what you're trying to build and started to feel like, I actually think I'm supposed to go and help Greg build this. I think I have some skill sets that would be useful here. And It was a leap of faith for me, it was stepping out of my comfort zone, but decided to move from interest to commitment and okay, let's build this Freedomology thing. Let's see where it goes. And it's been incredible, man. It's been what, a year now? Almost a year actually to the day that I
9 or 10 months since we started to publicly talk about these concepts. And I feel like we're off to the races, right? With the launch of our community and the mobile app, I feel like this is just an incredible way to organize all of these concepts and teachings in one place to be able to really make an impact on people. And as I look at you, so you have a very unique ability to move people with your words. And, right, again, me sitting in the seat when you had an opportunity to preach about God. And I love the way that you would connect God and Jesus and the Bible to like how we really live, because going to church for an hour on Sunday is one thing. How we live the rest of the week is a completely different thing for most Christians. And I think one of the things that we've talked about is like, what do we feel God wants Freedomology to be? And I made this comment to you, like if we can help Christians move from interest to commitment. Right? Yeah, it would be great if we could take atheists and we could take like non-believers and show them how we think God works in this world, on this planet through individuals. But I think there are so many Christians out there who are just interested in being a Christian. Like they're interested because their parents were Christians and they were raised as Christians, whether it's a Catholic, a Protestant, a Baptist, a Methodist. To me, to us, it's not about religion. It's about relationship with God, relationship with Creator. And so, man, I'm just looking forward to continuing to evolve these concepts, these ideas. I'm looking forward to R40.
I was just going to say, that's why I'm excited about R40, because I'm going to have a pretty big hand in putting that together. And it's really going to walk people through. I hope some light bulbs are going to go off for people that most people, when they think of relationships with coworkers and the people around me. And yes, that's true. But your relationship with yourself has a direct impact on all of your relationships with other people. And your relationship with God is what informs your relationship with yourself. It's what you believe about God and how he feels about you that informs your identity. And what you believe about yourself is what's going to impact how you treat other people. And so these things are all connected, and I'm just really excited to walk people through that. I think it's going to change the way that some people think, for sure.
Yeah, and you are married with 2 boys.
I am, yes. Yep.
And
young boys.
Yeah, haven't been back to Australia in a few years.
No, I haven't. So it's been a few years.
Or do that, but your parents were just up here. It was great to meet them. And we're coming at it from the simple idea that we're creating things that help people.
That's the goal.
And it's happening through a community. And what we've realized the past 9 months of running these sprints is that, man, something happens when you do it with other people who are doing the same thing that you're doing. It's just an elevated experience. And we both believe that the absolute best part about life is experiencing the world with people you love. And we've got a ton of people. We're blessed to have a ton of people that we love in our lives, and just want to take a few minutes to share that with you guys. And just looking forward to continuing to run H40, F40, and R40 to help make a big impact on your life.